my further adventures on the internet, on Discord. So, my expectations are not particularly high. I am attached to the Discord server of Mark Reed, who is a regular guest on Amy Newman's show, and I see that I have been disabled from viewing previous messages, the message history, and it seems. Well, I'm trying to work out what prompted it. So, I didn't complain to anyone when there was an obvious threat of violence to me posted on his town hall Discord server when one person called AZ posted a person shooting at something. Obviously, a threat of violence towards me. I can't actually access the history of the thing, but I was only discussing gender relations. I haven't been thrown off. I haven't been kicked off the server. I've only just been disabled from viewing the message history of politics. And obviously I can't get anything sensible from them other than threats of violence. I don't know whether Mark Reed wants to do something about it or not really. Maybe he supports it or thinks it is deserved. Now, Amy Newman, did you say something or not when oh, what's her name? When somebody on the show who was female talked about punching Nazis, which is, well, what does that mean? I don't think Nazis exist in the sense that they are members of the Nazi Party. You know, is there an American Nazi Party? I think there was, and I think it's called something else now or something. Let me just check, because if there are no Nazis in existence, then I guess it would be nonsensical to talk about punching them. And if they're going to call me a Nazi, they'll have to, well, prove it. But perhaps they're going to say that they're not really calling me a Nazi. And I suppose if anybody's going to call me a Nazi, it would have to be a lawyer, or well, it would have to be a lawyer, wouldn't it? I mean, it is obviously what's the word? Defamatory to call somebody a Nazi, and you would have to prove that somebody is a Nazi, you know, for it to be true. I'm saying it's impossible to be a Nazi, and obviously not all anti-Semites are Nazis. I mean, is it possible not to be an anti-Semite, but a Nazi? It's all a bit awkward, logically. But anyway, I'm saying I'm not a Nazi. I don't hate Jews. They're telling lies about me in order to demonise me and marginalise me, and it's not anything they haven't done to anybody. So basically what they do is they tell lies about you and then behave as if whatever they accused you of is true, and then justify their violence and their and whatever action that they took to destroy your life and career. I suppose I can't expect to escape from that, but you would have thought that there'd be some kind of, well, dialogue about who is a Nazi and that kind of thing, in order to, well, settle the thing before violence is used, but apparently not. I know there are people who don't care, who say, well, I wouldn't have had anything to do with these people at all, and therefore you're stupid, and if you're stupid you deserve punishment and violence and maybe your life being snuffed out while people just walk on by. So it does depend on what kind of society we are, whether we are a society that still abides by the rule of law or which doesn't. So what kind of society do you want to live in? But anyway, I wasn't the one being rude, but violence has been directly or indirectly incited. I don't know if I'm being the one targeted, but if anything were to happen to me, well, I guess we can work it out where it came from, and people might care or might not care, but I'm really saying that my free speech is also your free speech, and if you don't defend my free speech, then yours will be undermined and taken away. Let me just read this properly to see if the American Nazi Party still exists. Obviously, Amy Newman didn't think I was a Nazi because she allowed me to be on her show. So, what's all this about? Calling me a Nazi and saying I should be punched, or implying that, and using animation that suggests I should be shot. Hosted by Mark Reed, who owns the Town Hall Discord server. So this is a question I ask. I mean, he's a liberal, but if he doesn't really believe in the rule of law, if he thinks this sort of thing is acceptable, I mean, why have I been disabled from seeing the message history? Is it because there have been more threats of violence or something previously? I'm still finding my way around. I don't quite know how it all works. Right, it seems that the American Nazi Party, that I've never been a member of, has now changed its name to New Order. So I guess it's not possible to be a Nazi anymore. I mean, finally those those Americans who called their party that name realised it wasn't going to be a vote winner. And I think it's a rather checkered history. Somebody called Rocky Suhaida, which doesn't sound very Christian, is now the leader of it. Oh, it is called the chairman of the he is called the chairman of the American Nazi Party. So I don't know. It's all very complicated. I mean, obviously, if you keep changing your name, it means that you're not very happy with your identity. I like to think I've been very consistent with my identity and what I've been saying, even though people don't like what I say. As you know, I do think I'm known for my anti-Semitism. I do get on with my Jewish contacts. And I like to think I know what I am dealing with. There's a lot of fear and lies and people who can't think straight. And it's time to stop it, really, and call out all those people who are inconsistent, contradictory, and just want to fade away into the silence of pretending it never happened. So what could Amy Newman do? I guess she could delete all the streams that I've been on, and I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do, but I'm certainly not going to let this go, because this is exactly the problem. I'm not saying they don't have a right not to platform me, but you know, if I've never broke any rules, then I guess they have to find excuses, and you know, they could say, well, I'm not a nice person, I'm not this, I'm not that, or but that's only because they've decided not to platform me, and I don't know who exactly decided not to platform me. It's a kind of, we all did, but obviously we need to know, I need to know who was most responsible for deplatforming me and then calling me a Nazi and then threatening me with violence, with gun shooting animation and threats to punch people. I guess I need to know if it's me that they're talking about, that they want to shoot and punch. And if they do shoot me and punch me, then I guess we know where it all came from. And if they get away with shooting me or punching me, well, that's the kind of society that you all live in. And if they get away with punching me and shooting me, then, well, what's going to happen to you? And what are you going to do about it? Or are you just going to look away and pretend that only people like me get shot or get punched? But then, who's going to talk about politics in a challenging and constructive way? Constructive in the sense of explaining the causes, proposing solutions, and that sort of thing. Of course, there are plenty of people talking about politics, but do they talk about it in a way that makes things clear? Or is it just me? So, I should be the one punched and shot, supported by people like Mark Reed, who thinks this sort of thing is all right in a civilized society. We shall see. So, I have said on stream who made those threats. So it's on record anyway. And it's a shame that, nobody so far has been able to deal with my points. They don't seem to care. No Westerner seems to care that Christianity is kaput, and the Christians on the Amy Newman channel don't want to talk about it either, and I suspect that it's they more than anyone else who have pushed for me to be deplatformed. I know the left don't like me, but I think Christians are the ones who particularly dislike being told, well, being asked how and why Christianity is not idolatry and blasphemy. Why don't they like being asked that question? Because I think they know deep down that it is forbidden. So, and that they should know anyway, because the Ten Commandments forbid it. But then they'll say, but it isn't idolatry if Jesus is God. And my question of, well, how is Jesus God? And they can't answer that, and that's why I think it was Christians more than the left who want me deplatformed and shot or punched. And it's quite possible that nobody will care. And nobody will do anything, and any appeal to justice will be ignored, because far more important people have had their appeal for justice ignored. Trump, after all, with all his money and his lawyers, has been deplatformed. And nobody is exactly rallying to his cause. These Americans, these 70 million Americans, they can't seem to do it. I would have thought, after all he had done for speaking the truth, as 70 million Americans saw it, they would have done a better job of rallying to him. But no, I'm really very small fry. But did Trump invoke a higher power? We remember his photograph standing outside that church, that Anglican church, holding the Bible, photographed holding a Bible. And I saw that and I thought, it's not enough. You didn't hold up the right book. And that's why it won't work for Trump until and unless he realises what has gone wrong. Because if you don't ask the right person, then you won't get what you want. Because if you're asking the wrong person for the thing you want, and well, that person won't have it. So if he's holding up the Christian Bible, he's appealing to a deceased Jew that Christians worship. So I guess that's not going to work if you're appealing to a dead person. However many people claim to worship him, just ain't going to work. So who else is there to appeal to? I have my hypothetical supreme authority. Why would he answer my prayers? Perhaps it's because I'm the only person who is roughly in the ballpark of asking for the right thing from the correct being. I'm not asking a deceased Jew to help me, am I? I'm not Christian. I'm not completely stupid, though many people might think so. So back to the subject of the title, a society allergic to truth, progressing, pun intended, to the edge of the cliff. Progressing. All these progressives thinking they're going somewhere in this life. These commies, these liberals. Communists think they will get to a workers' heaven, to a workers' paradise. Liberals think they're going to get to the end of history. All wrong. Liberalism comes from the French Revolution, and you can't run a society on a wish list, a laundry list of three things: liberty, equality, and fraternity. Because you won't get fraternity with equality. You can only get accountability with hierarchy. And hierarchy is indispensable if you want somebody to take responsibility for anything that goes wrong. Because if you live in a society in which the buck keeps being passed, then nobody will take responsibility. And this means it's not anyone's fault. So whose fault could it be under liberal democracy? It will be the fault of people who are in the shadows, whose names are never known, who get the media to say what they want, and for politicians to be afraid of the media. So your problems will never be solved because politicians won't admit how frightened and powerless they are, and the media won't admit how powerful they are. And if you don't ask for the right thing, then you won't, well, you are even further away than from getting the right thing than a person who asks for the right thing. And I think I am at least in the right ballpark for asking for the right thing. Because if I ask for the thing I want from the hypothetical supreme authority, And if he is minded to give it to me, then, well, I get it. But of course, I don't simply ask for things. I don't expect God to be my genie. There's all the proper channels to go through, and I'm going through them. So you can tell that by asking Jews, rabbis in particular, to call out the idolatry and blasphemy of Christianity, I show that I know who's supposed to do what. Now, these rabbis won't do what I ask because they are afraid of the wrath of people claiming to be Christian being called out for their idolatry and blasphemy. So they don't do what I ask. They don't rank the 4 Gentile religions. And I'm afraid they're the only people who can do it, because the no-hide laws is a Jewish idea, and it doesn't work if I rank the Gentile religions, because I'm not Jewish and neither am I a rabbi. It wouldn't do any good if Christians do it, even though some of them might think they have the right answer. It wouldn't work even if Muslims do it, because it's not, it's not their thing. So Muslims would be held responsible for not obeying chapter 18 verse 4 of the Quran, which says, admonish those who claim that God has begotten the Son. So they haven't been doing it. So it's pretty clear why the idolatry and blasphemy of Christianity has run rampant around the world, while Jews and Muslims look the other way. And even now they are still looking the other way. Hello, John Williams. Who is afraid of being called out by the Christians? And are you Christian? That's a problem with these people who identify as Christian but who no longer believe in it. They are in a state of dementia, I would say. On the one hand, they want to identify as Christian, but on the other, they simply cannot make themselves believe it. So I'm really having this ridiculous discussion with somebody who clearly hates Jews and Muslims, obviously. Because if you're an anti-Semite, you won't acknowledge the authority of the 7 no-hide laws, because you would hate Jews, and you would say to Jews, who are you to tell us what to do? We won't obey your no-hide laws. And rabbis refuse to engage with them because they are afraid of the violence that would be inflicted on them by these anti-Semites, who are beyond reason anyway. So if you were to ask people like Christine Ramsey, who's Catholic and clearly, well, identifiably anti-Semitic, even though she won't, she will be too mindful of the P's and Q's to say anything obviously anti-Semitic, but you can tell just by reading between the lines. that she's not about to accept the authority of the Noahide laws, because she does not accept that Jews are God's chosen people. But Muslims do. They call Jews the children of Israel. That's how the Quran refers to them. But Christian theology is really a mess. They really cannot. They really cannot explain themselves, not even to themselves, let alone to us. So let's see what anti-Semitic comments I have now attracted to my chat. It's okay, you take your time and you formulate proper sentences with subject and verb so I know what you're talking about. So Christine says, predictably, that she doesn't believe that Jews are God's chosen people. But that actually goes against reason, because Christians are the people who worship a Jew. So how can you diss Judaism? How can you? So what you see, Christianity has actually perpetrated an enormous act of cultural appropriation on Jews. They basically appropriated their God and added a Jew and basically blended him as you would blend some food mixture in your blender, and after you've given it a whiz, you get a paste. And this is basically what Christians have done to the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. That's what they've done for 2,000 years. And it's time for them to acknowledge the enormity of the idolatry and the blasphemy that they have been perpetrating on the God of Israel. And it's also time for rabbis to finally acknowledge that this is what the religion of their Christian overlords have done. And this is also what Muslims need to acknowledge Christians have done. But I think they are too afraid of offending their Christian overlords. Secular Quranism has not been particularly well received by Muslims, but it could be a combination of reasons. They don't think much of being told that they have been wrong for centuries either. But it's clear that they have been wrong for centuries. I mean, otherwise all these Muslim empires, these Islamic empires would still be around, and it is clear that they ignored their own rules. And perhaps these Muslims have less excuse for doing so because their rules are clearer than the ones the Christians follow. But Yom Kippur is coming up. Either Jews repent or they don't. And if God exists, he will punish them, and if he doesn't, then I guess, well, I don't care. I wouldn't care to try to predict what will happen to all these Jews, Christians and Muslims who don't really believe in God. They just pretend to believe in God, because if they did believe in God, they would they would have already acted correctly. So Jews would have thought to themselves, but these Christians, they are practicing idolatry, and it is our duty to call them out, and if we don't, we too will be punished. So obviously, these Jews don't really believe in it either. And if Christians really believed in God, they would be a little nervous after being told that their religion is really 2,000 years of idolatry and blasphemy, but they don't care, which suggests that they don't believe that there will be an afterlife in which God will punish them. So they're atheists too. And what about these Muslims? Are they also beyond reach? They're the ones who are supposed to have their faith in Islam to call out the Christians and obey the commandment in chapter 18 verse 4 to admonish those who claim God has begotten a son. But do you ever hear them mentioning it? Not a squeak. Actually, I can Google it and see what happens. Muslims 18:4. Is there any Muslim leader who says this is what you ought to do? Surely I can't be the only one, and I'm not even Muslim. It's all. I have to have a few results, but they're all my own. So I've got one result saying Quranic warners. And it's just a list of verses. Nobody putting their name to it. So I guess Muslims have been doing what they were told to do. I'm afraid no Muslim has been obeying chapter 18 verse 4, and I guess that's why COVID might have been sent by God, who, if he exists, it makes perfect sense. The usual comments by Christine Ramsey, who is basically saying I don't have a right to wonder about these things. I really said I'm agnostic and I have to look at the world through an atheist lens. And obviously, if you're atheist, you'll think that lockdown and vaccines will eventually solve the problem. But I'm saying, if you look through the world through a theist lens, then penitence would be necessary to make things better. I don't see why she can't see this, but I think she can. She's just trying to say that I don't have a right to ask these questions, but of course I have a right. I am known for asking this question more than anyone else who is actually supposed to believe in God. So John Williams says, She thinks Judaism cuts Christianity naturally when it doesn't quite. What do you mean, cut Christianity? Of course, Judaism would. It sets the standards. It has, obviously, set the standards of everything. The Ten Commandments, the definition of idolatry. And we already know that God is not material in any way, or Jews are not supposed to think of God as material, and Muslims are agreed with Jews on that. It's only Christians who think God is Jesus and Mary is Mother of God. Blasphemy upon idolatry. And still they pretend that it's perfectly all right, and they don't get it, or they just pretend not to get it. A few more people have popped up. I don't think they're theologians. I know Stephen James is atheist, so he hasn't got any skin in the game of Christianity, except that, you might think Christianity is white and white people can't admit they're wrong, or their status might fall even lower faster. Shall I go and get myself a cup of tea? Ralph sort of said he'd be coming by. But okay, I will send him. I'll send him the link after I go for a cup of tea. I've been talking for how long now? Nearly 45 minutes. I should play you some music, shouldn't I? Sorry, the song. Sorry, the music finished and I was distracted. I haven't even got my coffee. I need to do this before I get back to you, or I'll just forget. Okay, I've done what I needed to do. Right, let's see what there is in the chat. Nobody's made any great theological point. Stephen James can only talk about witches. And somebody's talking about Israelites. Nobody's really making any important point. I don't know why you're talking about the 12 tribes. Oh, completely irrelevant information about the Israelites. And person with a strange name, why? What truth do you think I fear? It'd be good to have somebody to talk to who makes sense, but I guess there's not that many around anyway. Which is why the world is in this terrible state of being run by lunatics. I might just have to close the stream down if I can't find anybody in my chat who says anything intelligent. So it's all incomprehensible comments, completely irrelevant stuff about how the Israelites were horsemen or whatever. But okay, before I go, I guess I'll have a look at the 12 tribes of Israel, and I'm just saying they were kind of divided by occupation, I think. Let's see if I'm right. Tribes of Israel. I've got stuff going on, so I don't have to listen to, well, just trying to make sense of your nonsense. So I'll finish after I talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. So they're all listed. The 12 tribes consist of Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Benjamin, Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. And they were all allotted land. And apart from the Levites, who are known to be priests, we don't know if they were kind of given their specializations. So it's not like, kind of maybe unofficial caste system that, this lot are shepherds and the other lot are carpenters and scholars and that kind of thing. But anyway, it's probably not right to think of the 12 tribes of Israel as some kind of guild, as all a kind of, yeah. Anyway, it was just an idea. Any more comments? Coach Red Pill is... I wasn't very impressed with him. Why do you mention him, Stephen James? I fear that Europeans are Israelites. Why would I fear that? I mean, even the Jews aren't Israelites. It's strange how you just go for these sort of mythical scenarios that have no application to now. Why do you talk about Coach Red Pill? I know he's anti-feminist, isn't he? That's all I can remember, and he's not a particularly insightful. Yeah, I knew he was on the Duran a lot, and I guess Alexander Mercouris said he was going to talk about feminism. But actually, I would be the safest person to talk about feminism with, because I'm female, and Coach Red Pill will be known for, well, being a bit of a jock, a bit of a, well, maybe sexist, misogynist pig, even if he isn't, because they're just going to paint him as one. So I don't think using him would give them much credibility, and also he's not really an intellectual, is he? Sort of more crazed anti-Semitic nonsense by somebody called Wilhelm Alither. And that's your problem, you see. You like these sort of crazy conspiracy theories, and you lack self-awareness, and you don't realise how stupid and crazy it makes you sound, and then I guess you blame Jews when everybody ignores you. I don't blame Jews particularly. I mean, we can say, oh, these rabbis are cowards, they should be doing what... But then, are the Christians any better? Are the Muslims any better? They're all just keeping stum because they don't want to get into trouble, and they think if they ignore the problem it'll go away, or will be solved by somebody else. Yeah, I think he's a bit of a wanker, to be honest, Stephen James. But I only have vague memories of him, and I don't think... Okay, a lot of you will think I'm not being particularly clever about how I've been doing my publicity. But, if I'm going to be saying something about feminism, I won't be getting advice from, the most loud-mouthed, male chauvinist pig person around, That would be crazy. So I mean, this is one of the reasons why, a lot of men accused of rape will actually go out of their way to hire a female defence lawyer, because it just somehow makes their case more credible. But if anybody wants to talk about feminism and wants somebody credible to put the anti-feminist argument it wouldn't be somebody like Coach Red Pill, would it? It'd have to be somebody like me, or at least female, you know? Well, that's what I think anyway, but, you know, I know nobody listens to me. I don't know why you're talking about racial differences in Israelites. I mean, I've actually met some, what are they called? British Israelites. But those are basically, you know, anti-Semites who want to, you know, culturally appropriate Judaism even more. So basically, these are British Christians who say that they're really the ones who are Jews. They have a Wikipedia entry and under British Israelism, and it says British Israelism, also called Anglo-Israelism, is a pseudo-archaeological belief that the people of the British Isles are genetically, racially, and linguistically the direct descendants of the 10 lost tribes of ancient Israel. With roots in the 16th century, British Israelism was inspired by several 19th century English writings such as John Wilson's 1840 Israelitish, I can't read it, Israelitish origin. Numerous British Israelite organisations were set up throughout the British Empire as well as the United States from the 1870s onwards. A number of these organisations are independently active as of the early 21st century. In America, the idea gave rise to the Christian identity movement. The central tenets of British Israelism have been refuted by evidence from modern archaeological, ethnological, genetic and linguistic research. So I guess probably comes from that song Jerusalem, right? Which is really a call for British imperialism. So it's a kind of, you know, romantic thing. Oh, look at these Jews. We don't like them. Let's just acquire their identity. But they conveniently forget that out of all the world, people in the world, Israel has had its borders defined in the Torah. So they're not allowed to acquire empire. And I suppose if they try, they're cursed. And obviously, if you're not Jewish, then how can you have a connection to Israel? Unless you are a Semitic people. Because at least, you know, Arabs are known to live around there, but not Europeans. But I suppose they thought they could just say whatever they want and make it true just by saying it again and again and again. And then there's also the idea of the British throne as a continuation of the Davidic throne. I guess they wanted to legitimize their empire. And it is also their case that Britain and the United States are the inheritors of Jacob's birthright. So basically it's this imperial myth that the British cooked up. With the intention of stealing the clothes and identity of the Jews. And obviously it has links to anti-Semitism. So, looks like this is the sort of thing you believe in, is it? Person with funny name? Okay, I don't really care about ancient history. If it's like not content with hating Jews, you then go on and worshipping a Jew. Now you want to acquire their identity and just work up some crap and say it's truth, and it's not ever going to work, because the Torah is more well known than British Israelism. I'm not going to make an argument for why Europeans aren't Israelites. It's just ridiculous. I mean, when you believe in nonsense, then people will just think you're stupid. And if they think you're stupid, they'll either exploit you or just ignore everything you say. But maybe retreat into folklore and nonsense is the only thing left to you now. You can't argue a case, you can't accept irrational arguments. I guess retreat into fantasy is the only thing left. So before I go, I will repeat what I think I just said, which is that a society that's not capable of using truth, logic and morality to solve its problems doesn't deserve to exist. And soon the problem will be solved. I've explained what I think the problem is. I think you understand, except that you don't like my solution. You think your fantasy solutions are better, the ones of you kicking everyone out and establishing a pagan religion or whatever it is you want. You think that has more chance of success than secular Quranism, which I am using entirely peaceful and legal means to promote. I even have a roadmap to power. And I'm saying it can be acquired legally and peacefully if only people will just do the right thing and say what they believe to be the truth without fear or favour. And it seems neither Jew nor Gentile is able to do this. And even those who claim to believe in God as Jews, Christians and Muslims, they're not doing what I'm doing. They're not forming sound conclusions from undisputed fact with undisputed fact. They can't even do that. They leave it to me, yet they want to throw rocks at me. These Christians who can't explain how Jesus is God, these Jews who are too afraid to call out the idolatry and blasphemy of Christianity, and the Muslims who hate Jews but who are themselves too afraid to call out the idolatry and blasphemy of Christianity, and they dare to say that I have no right to use their Quran. These Muslims. Cookies rolls up belatedly to ask, what's the story? You've missed my last. You've missed my stream, giving you chapter and verse for everything. I guess I can find it for you, and then I will go, because I think maybe you need to catch up on exactly what I've been saying. So basically they're trying to say I'm a Nazi who deserves to be either punched or shot, and Mark Reed is kind of platforming that, and he seems to think that's okay. So we'll see what he has to say about that. You can all go there and ask them all these questions, can't you? Here's one that I time-stamped with the message of James W. to me, telling me how they no longer wish to platform me because of whatever. So here it is. Just mark what? How long do Jews have to repent? Well, I wouldn't know that. I mean, they just have to, they have to repent, and then maybe something might happen, right? I mean, that's the whole idea, you know. It's like, you know, you've tried your lockdown, you've tried your vaccines, then maybe you can try repenting publicly, of course. You know, Yom Kippur, we're really sorry for not telling these Christians that their religion is idolatry and blasphemy. And come, join us, Christians, to repent of your idolatry and blasphemy, and come, Muslims, join us too, because you have not been calling out these Christians for their idolatry and blasphemy. This is a suggestion. Oh, okay, cookies. I'm not saying Amy Newman has been rude or unwelcoming or whatever. Yeah, Mark hates me because, well, he's the best debater, and he took exception to me pointing out to him that because he has no biological investment in the next generation, he will be more attached to thinking that his liberal views are correct than admitting that he might possibly be wrong, because, you know, if you don't have children, you know, it'll just be an abstraction. Other people's children, other people's future, other people's descendants are just an abstraction to you, but your views become sacred over time, particularly when you've held them for a very long time, like your entire life. So I think he would have reason to dislike me because I pointed out to him, and then he says, "Oh, this is disgusting. You traduced my honour," or words to that effect. And I'm saying, no, I made an accusation. You can't successfully deny it because it's true that he has no children and he's a liberal, and everybody would know that if you have no children, you know, that you care about. I mean, it's possible that you have children and you don't care about them, and you just want to hold on to your liberal views, even though you know liberal policies are hurting your children. I'm sure there are plenty of Western parents who are like that. They don't want to admit that their entire life has been a lie. You know, there is a generation gap between boomers and millennials. And that's why when COVID started, there were a few jokes about COVID being boomer remover. Not much love lost between the generations, because the younger generation suspect that the older generation have spent their inheritance. And so they joke about pillow day and boomer remover. So Well, the media want to pretend that that race is the issue. I don't think so. The problem in the West is the hatred between male and female, as well as the generational hatred of those who grew up thinking that liberalism was the best thing ever, and those of the next generation who are suffering the consequences of so many decades of liberal thinking and liberal policies that these boomers don't want to acknowledge have been a terrible mistake. So that is really where the fault line is. The racial differences are just it's nothing, because anybody of any race who wants to contribute to the nation that they are part of would want to support marriage and family values, because this is the only way to produce the next generation. So I really don't think there would be any racial divide between people who want to be married parents. I think they would be agreed on wanting lower taxes, wanting laws from the government to support marriage, and they would be pro-patriarchy and pro-secular Quranism. The people who most hate secular Quranism are confirmed bachelors, or bachelors who know they have no prospect or intention of becoming married fathers. These would be the people who would hate secular Quranism the most. So I think my analytical powers are second to none. I have really worked out your problems for you, except that you don't quite want to acknowledge it, you don't quite want to talk about it, you still want to close your ears and look the other way, because you can't bear the idea of marrying a woman of your own race, even if one could be found for you. And so we finally come to the conclusion that patriarchy was a great burden on men too, wasn't it, boys? That's why you don't want to do it. That's why you don't even want to talk about doing it. So while you complain about immigration and all that kind of thing, you're saying you don't even want to admit that feminism was wrong, that the price of sex should be raised, and if you can't afford a wife, the price of an honest prostitute would be worth the sacrifice made, so that you don't find yourself inadvertently siring a bastard that you will have to pay for under the Child Support Act. So we know that patriarchy was not easy on men, and I think a lot of men even now realise it. So I still continue to hope that there are enough people who understand my point, who care enough about the future of their nation to discuss secular Quranism seriously. It's interesting, isn't it, that Ralph, who has been so energetic about these causes, well, it's surprising that he is so energetic and considering his race. So nationalism is really not a concern solely for white racist people. I want to define racism as government in the national interest, And it's only when this is finally agreed will there be any hope of even the beginnings of improvement. But you see how corrupt white men are, that those who call themselves nationalists refuse to engage with me on the definition of nationalism, because they somehow sense that I'm not going to say it's the interests of the indigenous people or whatever. I'm not even going to say people, because the national interest is an abstraction, and it must remain an abstraction, because the national interest includes generations as yet unborn who might have a view about the mess this generation has left things in. But it's a shame. It's a shame that I can't get anyone with a degree to talk about these things honestly. But that is, unfortunately yet another more conclusive evidence that I'm right in my diagnosis. Cookies, how funny. Wilhelm, why, I can't even begin to answer your silly question about why you think the Chinese worship dragons. They do no such thing. You're just... There's a practice of Chinese ancestor to worship which has nothing to do with dragons. I mean, of course, there's all kinds of symbolism, the way that you have, I don't know, John Bull signifying Britain, that kind of thing. So if you, Chinese dragons, it doesn't mean that the Chinese worship dragons. It's just idiotic to even think about it. No, the Chinese practice Chinese ancestor worship, and I did actually write about it in Voice of Reason. So if you want to know that, you can go to it. But I really have to go now. Oh my God, I've been talking for over an hour. Stephen James asks, would shopping around for donors to make eugenicist designer babies be forbidden? I'm afraid IVF and AID would be banned under secular Quranism because it's dysgenic. So that's all. Why does it say so few concurrent viewers when, okay, one thing is saying 3, the other is saying 6. I think I have more participants. 1, 2, 4, okay, 4, 5, 6. I suppose that's about right. 5 participants. Anyway, I think I've said all I need to say, or all that I can think of to say. And I say that people who are not moved by truth, logic and morality do not deserve to live in an advanced civilization, and very soon they won't be. So problem solved. Kyo asks, would you agree that the Chinese have a clear definition of nationalism? Well, to be honest, I don't know how they define the national interest. I mean, they do talk about the people. And then I think they kind of think, well, it's not just the people alive in our country at the time whose votes we need. It's like, actually, this is what is so is a clear blue water, because politicians will just be thinking of people who vote. They don't care about people who can't vote. They don't think about the next generation, and that this is one of the more pernicious effects of democracy, that politicians who can only measure their success by whether they are elected into office or not just don't care about anybody who isn't a voter. While the Chinese Communist Party can think without pressure about promoting the national interest, and think of, well, it's not just people who are over 18 that we should care about, or people who might vote. We have to govern China in a long-term national interest, and so they don't even make a distinction between old Chinese people or young Chinese people, and in fact they go on to the next step of thinking of future generations of Chinese people that those in government will never meet. And that, I guess, is a secret of their success. They don't have the insanity of representative democracy to to drive their civilization into collapse and disaster. So thank you for your question, Kyo. That's a really good question. I don't know the official answer for that. Actually, there's a book called The China Model by Daniel Bell, who's a Canadian academic. Maybe if you Google that, you'll find a short description of it, and you can buy a copy if you want. Daniel Bell, I believe, now lives in China. I don't know if he will ever return to the West, but he seems to really like it there. Let's have a look at him. But yeah, every time I see him, he looks very happy. He's at Tsinghua University. He's still there. He's from Quebec. And they keep giving him prizes, so I don't think he'll be coming back to the West. He's very keen on the meritocracy of China. And if you're interested in the Chinese Communist Party, you should read The China Model. And there's also quite a good one called The Party. And I have read it, and it's quite good. I can't remember the name. Chinese Communist Party. And it basically it explains how the Chinese Communist Party was working. Wait, I'll get that for you. It is worth reading, and it's out in paperback. And he's a British journalist. I think he was British, as far as I can remember. Maybe I should just look under Amazon. Yeah, it's called The Party, The Secret World of China's Communist Rulers. And it's by Richard McGregor. That's the one. So there's Colin saying that he's more Chinese than me. Yes, I'm afraid British journalism died out a few decades ago. It's very sad. But I think I've come to the end of the line of what I'm going to say to you guys. So I'll go now. Thank you all for coming by. And I think I found it worthwhile anyway. In explaining things to you, I explain things to myself.